Okay, hi everyone. I am Sarah and welcome to FabU first ever podcast. And we have the honor to have FabCafe KL with us today. There's Andy, there's Gwen, and with me today is my colleague Kok Young from FabU. So why don't Gwen and Andy introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Gwen.
Hi, I'm Andy.
Kok Young?
Hi, I'm Kok Yung.
Okay. So Fab Cafe just opened on March 14, 2020, which is probably a few days before MCO.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us more about the organization itself? Because I know the original thing was from Japan. So why not just how did you get it into here?
We started off as Fab Space. We started in 2016 in Isetan, the Japan store, Lot 10. Started off, in a department store. I know it's a bit weird, but because the concept of that floor was explorative learning, so that's why they wanted a maker space in that space. And even then, we actually wanted to be Fab Cafe, but then because it was in a department store, so without the cafe aspect, we were just like Fab Space. So that's how we started. And then when we moved out last year, we decided to go out.
Food cafe,
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you because like I said, it was the Fab Cafe itself originally was from Japan and it was a big hit over there. So I was wondering, how did you get in touch with them? How do you get into the industry to actually open up in Malaysia?
We came across their, I think, article or like a blog post online, and then we saw fabrication in a cafe. That's so cool. And then we are both in the design. I was doing interior design, and
I was graphic
design. You were a
design.
graphic
Yeah, it's related. And then after that, I work in advertising companies. Yeah, so for 7 years, I think, and you also from
interior design for about the same 7 years. And then I think halfway through, we wrote to them, Fab Cafe, and with the intention to want to open a Fab Cafe KL. And then so while we were discussing with them about the opening of Fab Cafe KL, suddenly they say there's an opening in this department store. Because I think the people that opened the Japan store was the Japan side of Isetan. So they asked if we were interested to start one in the department store first, and we thought, why not?
That's actually pretty cool. I heard, because I think FabU also has an interesting story of opening up FabU itself. Like the name is when I first heard the name, I was like, oh, you want to go with FabU? Oh, okay. So Koyang, do you have a story of how did you get into the industry? Because
That's because I was jealous of them.
You were? Why?
No, I always been looking up to Fab KL. I came back from Korea in 2017. But when I was in Korea, there were a lot of similar setup, Fab, cafe setup. Some were just pure Fab laboratory. People, students, college kids just come in and fab their stuff, while at the same time they enjoy dining in the cafe as well. And I was very much into a specialty coffee, so I thought, after visiting the Fab space in KL Isetan, I thought I could probably do something similar, not in terms of financially, but in terms of the knowledge. I think I have the resources. It's very much a leap of faith. But in 2016, I was invited to a bio-art camp in Japan, and the space that hosts us was actually FabKL Tokyo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's really a very cool space. Most of our activities were running on the second floor, and during the break we just go down to take a cup of coffee, and I see people coming in doing cool stuff. So I was very much inspired. So when I came back to Malaysia in 2017, I actually wrote to FabCafe, the official brand, and I asked them how to set up a franchise, but there was no reply.
Whoops.
You don't know about that.
So then I thought I would start something by myself.
Then that's a bit more localized version
we're still very young. We're just a baby compared to you.
Yeah.
We have only been around for 1 year, and last month we just celebrated our first year anniversary.
So because in Malaysia itself, it's not that big of a deal yet. We're all in this table know that in Japan, in other Eastern country, it's bigger than here. So in Malaysia itself, do you think there's a community? What is the culture here? Do you think it's big enough for the public to know, or it's still confined towards the art industry, people who's in the creative industry?
I think the maker culture here is young. I don't know, say from the DIY side, right? Maybe Malaysians, because labor is cheap, so we all grow up knowing if you need to fix anything, you just call people to come and do it. So we don't have that DIY, I need to fix my own, compared to US or Europe where labor is expensive. They have to do everything themselves. So I think maybe this is why the maker culture scene is a bit young. So people don't really want to do things themselves yet, I think.
Yeah, I think that's also correct. But then also from my side, actually, because I'm Indonesian, so I don't know how is the maker community in Malaysia. So when I come here, that actually I know maker community in Malaysia is more towards to electronic, Arduino and
devices.
Devices. So I'm kind of if you are a maker or something, it's supposed to be not just that. I think that's why there is a gap in maker community in Malaysia about it. So me, actually, I'm purely a designer. So and then it's we know a little bit about electronic and stuff, but actually not so expert and not really know about that one. So I just know about more focus on the design. So so we are actually hoping to become a bridge between those people and the designer. I think also because in this community and this kind of this world, designer also play an important part. That's what I think.
That's what you think. Okay.
I think if we go by the definitions of makers, it really has to do with digital fabrications. That's why Andy associates with all the techie groups. So if you look at the makers fairs and all that, the recent years, it's all about the tech and also the engineering. People who are into STEM educations. But I think in Malaysia we have a long history of craft culture. So I see that as a precedent or the origins of makers culture in Malaysia. But it's just that traditionally that craft movement has been traditionally slow, and also less important compared to other sector. So it has not been developed or has not evolved. But I think it's coming back again. Probably, I don't know. It's probably part of the whole IKEA culture. So the coming in of IKEA into Malaysia sort of rekindle or kindle the spirit of DIY making culture in Malaysia.
Yeah, IKEA
Yeah,
is
so
just
it's the
more
DIY as well.
commercialized maker set for everyone, right? That it's more
But
accessible.
I do
to
agree with
everyone.
Gwen. I
Yeah.
think the labor in Malaysia is cheap.
Yeah.
So people tend to
Just call.
just call for services. Just call people to do it for you instead of you doing it for yourself. Yeah, and there's a culture of, I don't know, if it breaks, we don't tend to fix it. Yeah, and we
Yeah.
also don't have the garage culture like America,
Yeah.
where a lot of the, cool products, zines, labels, music records come from the garage. We don't have that in Malaysia.
True.
It's very insightful actually. That when you compare it to when you compare it to having a cheap labor and a more expensive labor, but since in Malaysia it's still a cheap labor, do you think it can develop even more this? Do you think the scene can be bigger than it is now? Because to me personally, a maker, usually in my general perception, then this person must be someone artistic or someone who knows how to imagine what they want to do instead, rather than just taking something that's already there and then just use it and things do you think in Malaysia can be people can
I think there is a potential, but maybe just a bit slower.
Just a bit slower.
But then also I think labor is starting to get a bit more expensive these days, I think. So maybe that
depends on what kind of labor you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very true. So because like I said, because it's very slow, what do you think is the challenge it is to convince Malaysians to go towards this, because for example, if we were to make something moving, an example, a general metaphor, something moving, but they can already get it a ready-made one. How do you convince, what is the challenge to actually convince people that, hey, you can do it yourself instead of making it
the challenge is there. It's hard because they always say oh, why should I make this when I can buy it?
Yeah.
Because before this we were in the retail store, so we actually 80% of the people that we met, the customer, they say like that. Why do I need to make if I can buy it? So it's kind of hard how to change the people mindset.
We still don't know how though, right? Even being in Isetan for
3 years.
I don't really know how to. Apart from giving them value, okay, if you learn this, you get satisfaction or gain a new skill,
And
I don't know.
also you learn new things because sometimes this kind of thing you cannot learn or you can get it if you don't try it. Or you cannot get what you get from the school or anything.
So I'm always curious, so you think there's a conflict of interest? Maybe your previous setup was in a mall actually.
Yes.
So the people who actually go to the malls are consumer.
Yes.
Right? They tend to buy stuff.
Yeah.
They're shoppers. So when they go up to the top floor to your maker space, then you're actually asking them to make stuff.
Yes.
Or that was actually part of your strategy.
No, it was I think the whole Isetan concept basically. When they go up to the third floor, I think in the beginning with all the exhibition or the Japanese classes that they have, it was quite complimenting. So when you go through the whole floor, you have there's one side for the class, right? And then another side for exhibition, another side for art, and then our side is to make things. At that time, it was very new, so people kind of accepted it. But of course, normally the general public that came with a mindset to buy things. So, but as they walked through the floor, it was okay. But it was an opportunity for us, so
I see.
we just took it.
Yeah. I think one of the ways that you can actually make people actually want to make I think FabSpace or FabCafe and also FabU has done is making workshops, like you say, it's very young, so let's just target the young kids instead of the older people, because younger kids I know they have like less focus span, but also if it's interesting enough,
they're curious.
They're curious. Like even if it's a 3D printed pen that you had for workshops for kids, they actually liked it because it was colorful. You could actually make their drawings to 3D. They can actually hold it. So I think also in Malaysia, instead of you can target the older ones, but maybe in a different approach. But the kids is easier to target because I think if it's fun enough to do for them, then it's nicer, right? So which is interesting for me in the maker culture, because I think kids has more maker mindset in them instead, rather, because I remember, I don't know if it's relevant enough, but my brother, when he was little, he used to watch Art Attack all the time. So he used to go through my mom's kitchen and arrange all the things, and then he actually made a dinosaur out of it. For some reason, I think he lost that touch, maybe because we just never there was no space for it. Maybe space, I never knew Fab Space Japan existed, or any Fab maker culture in Malaysia existed. So even he didn't know. So like we never encouraged, but we also never discouraged. He just grew out of it. But also, like I said, kids has more maker mindset in them because they have more imaginations.
Yeah.
So that's what's interesting to me in the maker culture lah.
I think kids generally, naturally, they have this maker's tendency. It's just that we lost touch along the way, and also because probably our education system doesn't encourage further development on that aspect as well. So along the way, we just
forget.
Lost it. You just lose it. So
touch.
So that's what's good about having a maker culture now. So then these kids will never lose it. So I hope it gets bigger than it is.
When we started the business, we assumed people would just come in
and do things.
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work that way. Like it works in Japan and Korea.
In Japan and Korea, they already had the culture.
They already had that culture. They already had that part in their education. So they have been building stuff since young age. So they just come in and build things that they fancy. So over here, we need to do a lot of capacity building. We need to do a lot of education.
Yes.
And motivation. There are people who came out and expressed interest, but when it comes to the actual doing part, they hesitated.
So,
long break.
This will be cut off, but okay. Next, because not everyone does this, so I was wondering if anyone has ever what are the most interesting definitions or interesting things people have said about what you're doing, because I know it's for example, I'm a media arts background. Not everyone knows what I do. Not everyone knows what Koh Young does. He does very deep art. So I think all of us here probably had the questions what do you actually do? What is that? Because it's not such a big knowledge yet in Malaysia.
Yeah, it's not.
So what are the
I usually when people ask what I do, I just say a digital fabrication space with 3D printing, just because people are more familiar with the word 3D printing than I think laser cutting, so I say 3D printing. Or sometimes I just say, I'm a designer. But if they ask more, what design? I'll be interior design. And then where? I'm actually, no, I'm now running a digital fabrication space. So I don't know, it depends. Sometimes I'll just say I'm interior design, sometimes I'll just say.
And what's funny about we having a space in Isetan before in retail space. some people actually come there like, oh, do you sell the machine or what? Like,
Yeah,
no,
they think we sell the machine.
And one is like, oh, so this one is like they pointing something like wrongly. Is like, oh, this one is like laser cut, but actually 3D print.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny when we found people talking about it, and then I think that's also the biggest hurdle of the people in here, because maybe they are not familiar with this. So what we always do actually, if people need to explain about it, so what's this all about, and how does it work, and that stuff.
Yeah. Typically, you just have to just like explain it to them, like
Yes.
how you explain a new shiny toy to a kid, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. What has people have said like about what you're doing with FabU? Like, how does it relate to what your background is?
I mean, people around me, they've always been confused with what I'm doing all the time. Even my family don't really
Relatable.
understand what I'm doing. We have a lot of interesting clients when we show them our portfolio. People who are looking for content, they don't understand what you have a designed as a company in a cafe. They don't get the idea. But we come to people who are generally interested in building things. Then they see our other side of the portfolio, which is the digital content. And we also do a lot of events as well. So I think in a nutshell, people see us as a jack of all trades. You do all kind of things. It's very rojak. So we cover a lot of aspects of design, digital designs, in the content production side, but also all the way to the actualizations of products or finished material. And I have friends came to visit from time to time. They still don't get the idea, but after a few rounds of explanations and touring and showing them things that I made, because the term fabrications is not a new term, but it has always been associated with manufacturing process. People generally refer fabricator as someone who work in a factory. They fabricate metal, they fabricate woods and stuff. But the digital fabrication is the game changer, I see, because it's a desktop fabrications. It scale down the model of fabrications into a desktop model.
Yeah.
So for a traditional fabricator, they don't get that idea.
Yeah, too small for them.
Yeah, too small. So in terms of design, how can you make something big out of it? Yeah. But it's all comes back to design. How do you make it modular and slowly build up from there? I think in the industry, it's still a very nascent industry. It's a very young, even though we have a lot of people in the design field already, but not every one of them are into the last steps of digital design, which is the fabrication or the manufacturing. Did I answer your question?
You did. Actually, you did. So that actually answered another question as well, which is like how do you define like how would you define fabrications? You answered yours already in that way. So I think
Maybe they have different.
do you have a different definitions of like fabrication?
Fabrication, I think generally is what Kok Yong says. It's a tool to help us to get things done. Yeah, to me.
Make something like sometimes I don't know. Like we always sometimes like we're not like prototyping or something because so we know what's wrong with it. So maybe we can like perfect it in some way. So this like the fabrication into like desktop scale can make something that actually avoid a bigger mistake, and also with this you can like what you call it, getting more creative with it.
So it's like
what do you call it, like to me is fabrication. Yeah, what to say? To me, for me, it's like something that is a tool.
Enhances your
Enhance that our creativity.
Yeah.
I think something like that.
So you think
I think theoretically the nature of digital fabrications and traditional fabrications is still very different, because the nature of digital fabricated products actually come from digital domain. What I meant to say is, if you look at the traditional fabricator, they can work without a CAD drawing.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, you just give them the specifications. You tell them, the size and the diameter, inner diameter, outer diameter. They are able to fabricate the stuff for you. But the nature of the digital fabricated objects is that they were born in digital world.
Yep.
So it evolved from a digital drawings or a digital model into a actual
things.
materialized objects.
Yeah.
So we sort of bring the objects from the digital world into the physical world.
Which makes it harder also, like and that's why people come and they're like, oh, okay, can I just cut something? We say you have to give us the file, and then they don't know what the file, or they don't know how to create. So that is also, I think, why digital fabrication is a bit hard for just anybody to use, is because they have to prepare the files digitally.
So
There's this requirement of digital literacy.
Yeah.
They need to know how to prepare files.
So when you say it like that, like how does one actually, start, someone with zero knowledge, like how does one actually start going into this field? Like you can do something very small and call yourself a maker, but how does someone start that one?
I think it's the design literacy. You have to know how to use the software first. So like for laser cutting, you have to learn the vector software. And then for 3D printing, it's a whole nother different thing. It's like 3D modeling. So I think that is the fundamental, because without it, then you don't know. You can't access the machines, I think.
What about for someone who doesn't have the digital literacy, for example? Maybe someone, I don't know, like an engineer who works with Arduino, for example. They know the hardware part, but how do they start out with like building up something nice to cover up the hardware? For example, making a robot, like they don't have to resort to like using just normal boxes. For example, kids using boxes to do a robot using Arduino. Because in schools now, I do know they have like electronic clubs, which they introduce minor Arduino, which is very basic. But yeah, like how does person who doesn't have the creative or digital literacy go into a maker culture?
So I think as someone running a business, I mean, if we know that digital literacy is very important, but if we keep on emphasizing on the digital literacy as a prerequisite to enter digital fabrications, then we'll turn away a lot of
People.
It's customer. So then we realize that we actually need to do one-to-one consultation. To a certain extent, if their requirement is too big, then we have to charge them a consultation fees or design fees to actually help them to come up with a design. I think that's how we come to the realization along the way. Otherwise, we lost a lot of
Same with us. Yeah.
But it takes a lot of our time to actually, consult them on their projects. But now we started to build a pool of regular customers. They see us as their MacGyver. We solve the problems and then they just come out to say, hey, what do you think about this? Can you provide solutions? To retain them in our business, we have to do that. No choice.
we feel you actually.
Yeah.
We go also something like that. Yeah.
And then we keep saying, oh, you have to give us the file, then, they don't come back. So we started offering just laser cutting class, 3D printing class. But yeah, we did that. And then, consultation also, if it was easy or like, sometimes they just want squares, and they know their size, then we can, on the spot. Yeah, the harder ones, we will just need more time and charge them.
Actually, I think the learning curve is not that steep, really. Maybe 3D modeling and 3D printing is a little bit more demanding in terms of skills and knowledge, but apart from that, laser cutting is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You just need a couple of the demo, and they will get the hang of it very quickly. I think these days, all the learning start from YouTube.
YouTube.
Even we learn that way as well.
Yeah.
So,
Even if you scroll Facebook randomly or Instagram, you see like, suddenly a DIY video. I still think that's a maker thing also. Like, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be specifically just laser cutting or 3D printing. It can be something else. You can do the smallest thing and still be a maker. Yeah, I think everyone has a maker inside of them. To me personally, I think everyone has a maker. They just don't realize it. Yeah. So like, to get where you are right now, do you have like, do you have like an inspiration or like a hero that actually inspired you to be a maker, or a person in the creative industry in general? Do you have someone that you look up to for it?
I think it's those YouTubers, that makes things.
Yeah.
So we're always watching and seeing, like when you see what they can do, you're just amazed, and you want to do it also lah.
I mean also like YouTubers actually not really like a hero, because it's give us inspiration lah. Sometimes we got like this guy, he create his own like lightning for the like photo or video, something like that. As actually, if you want to do it, it's not that hard. You just need to like spend more effort and time on it. I think that's one of it. And then also recently we across this guy. He's like Mark Robson or something. He's like one of the YouTubers. Is so funny because he actually working in NASA before. So what that he do is creating all the maker thing, but then it's like to prank thing or to like do a what do you mean like testing in the squirrel.
He built a squirrel, like a whole wipeout for the squirrel.
I saw that one as well. Actually, just last night I saw that one.
It's like so funny. Before that,
it's like the Ninja Warrior.
And also before that, he make it because in US I think they have a lot of package stealer, so he making like into something that.
Like if they steal the package, then it bombs, it glitter, and fart.
So that's where he practiced his maker self.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty. I think it's more common for that one because you have to know the devices and stuff. So people who know devices, like the electronic stuff part, they do more into that one, especially if they are YouTubers, right? Yeah, that's good content right there.
And also I think that actually make us realize that actually if you want to be a maker or like want to do a fabrication, don't forget about the fun part.
Fabrication can be really fun if you're into it. So because then that's you probably also met like a lot of people while being in the field. What are like the interesting things that has happened, like
for us? The interesting thing is always
at
seeing
work?
at work is always seeing somebody that know what they want to do, and know exactly how they're going to do it, and like just give us the file.
Does that excite you?
Yeah, it does. And because we're like, oh, what are you making? And then they say, oh, we're making a headphone. Oh, he's like, okay, this is the leather, cut this thing. This is the wood, cut this. And we're like, okay. Like, it's really inspiring to see people
Someone
who,
that really know what he want to do, and then just come like, oh, I have this file, I have this material, I want to do this, I want to do this.
yeah. So,
I think it excites you because, oh my god,
they're
people
like-
from my culture, people, you are my people. I think that's what excites you.
Yeah.
Kyle, interesting things.
Interesting things. I think probably the collaborations between the several makerspace during MCO. I think
Yeah,
that was
Yeah, that was- that was
please
good
do
too.
tell
It
me
was a
more
very
about it. That
meaningful
one.
project to
Yeah.
witness it. I mean, a long time ago, I read this book by Chris Anderson, who wrote the Makers Manifestos, Industrial Revolutions, a New Industrial Revolutions. He talked about the value of this industry. It's not really about maximizing profit, but maximizing value. So I think that projects during MCOs where all the makerspace and individual makers actually come together and build the PPE and the personal protective equipment
Yeah.
for the frontliners was really meaningful and exciting chapters.
I think MCO also
Malaysian
brought out the
makers.
makers in everyone.
Yeah.
Because like when MCO started, I started seeing on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter.
We never
Like,
know there are so
I
many
never knew there were so many people
who
who
have a 3D
exactly. Yeah, that's what actually surprised me. It's like, wow, there's like a lot of people who actually owns 3D printers. So that was interesting for me as well. So I thought it was small. So it was not as small as I thought. So it's big. It's just maybe not as popular as everything else. So that was interesting for
It's
me.
interesting in the sense that it's also validate what Chris Anderson says about the whole process. He called it the long tail of things. So if you look at the PPE manufacturing, we actually break down the pipeline of the productions into small
Yes.
fabrications, right? And also share. It's very much about this sharing economy of the concept, if you
Yeah.
like it. So they have the acrylic, but they don't have enough machines to
Machine,
cut it fast enough to produce up to the demand of the frontliners. So and then we mobilize the Grab driver also to send materials to different places.
Yep.
And I happen to have a friend who owns a stationery
Shop.
company shops, and he donated the plastic sheets. So we do the assembly in FabU, and I think the final destination is America.
Yeah,
They do
yeah.
all the
Assembly.
finishing,
Yeah.
assembly, and also the sanitization. So I think that was a very interesting collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also the interesting part is actually how the design is getting better and better. Yeah, they also
From the first
is like need to be like 50 minutes to create something. Now it's like I need this in 5 minutes, and getting
Faster.
faster and faster and faster,
Yeah.
getting more efficient. Yeah.
The more you do it,
Yes.
the more you do it. Which
And
is
then,
also
and then the community actually they share the file.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like actually what also was like actually touched my heart because it's in the maker industry in Malaysia. They don't see each other as like competitors. You guys were actually working together, which was so cool to look at. Actually, that was very inspiring because like it was first from FabCafe and then go to FabU and then go to make Mereka. So that was pretty cool to do. So instead of like looking at each other as competitors, you were working together actually. Because I do know, that's the whole thing. I'm sorry, cut that out. Anyway, so that one. So do you think do you see digital fabrication as like the future? Like, can it be advanced in Malaysia or Indonesia or any Southeast Asian country? Do you think digital fabrication is the future?
it is one part of the future, I think.
Yes.
Like, yeah, because digital fabrication, yeah, I think because robots can actually feed material into the machine and everything. So that is one side of it, I think.
Yeah, I think because digital fabrication for me, it's more to like the beginning of the future, because you're trying to do something more. So before you do something more, you have this facility and this digital fabrication to starting with. Yeah, I think what important also, I think, is the human itself, the human creativity, I think. So how we can push this digital fabrication and human creativity into shaping the future.
What,
Is it
what were you gonna hear? Like maybe how can we actually advance this industry? Like
I think yes, it's a disruptive technology, so it disrupt all the other industry as well. But we need to evolve in terms of techniques in digital design as well as fabrications. I think it's part of the nature of the evolution as well. So these are new emerging technology that we need to embrace sooner or later. So of course now we are still at the very early stage of the digital makers movement. We haven't come to the what you call it, a big scale industry application yet, but yeah, new techniques, new technology, new terminology coming up on day-to-day basis. I think we will have to pick it up sooner or later.
that's true. So digital fabrication is more to like personalize things for people instead, rather than like maybe for how do I say this, personalized, for example, giving a gift to someone. It doesn't I feel like digital fabrication can be something that has more sentiments in it, rather than like buying something that's already out there. Like
Yeah, I think people tend to value it
more because
compared to something that you buy.
Yeah, because it has
Things
more
that you
efforts
make,
in it for me.
things
I
that you
think.
make
Yeah.
with your hands, you tend to value it. And I also think that I lost it.
You lost the train of thoughts. It just went by.
What was that you're talking about?
Personalizing gifts.
Personalizing, yes, I think it's a very postmodern thing as well.
Yeah.
You know, during the early industrial revolutions, when we start to be able to mass produce things, there's a one size fit all.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody have the same thing.
Same thing,
they
yeah.
wear the same shirts coming from the same factory. But postmodern kind of refuted that definitions. Right? We want a bit of identity.
Yeah.
So I think postmodern zeitgeist is very much about hyper individualizations. You know, how do you express your individuality? So people tend to create and make or tailor-make stuff to actually express their own personality.
Yeah. Yeah, that part of the digital fabrication really, I think, can appeal to the masses lah. Everybody wants to actually just put their name on something, you know.
Yeah.
And I was looking at his shoes and I realized he did something to his shoes.
Did you?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
You drew something on it?
I drew and I add something more.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So, since we're still in MCO, right? So, when we don't know if it's going to be extended until when. So, like, when it opens physically, right? What happens next for like the cafes, for FabU and FabCafe?
I think for us it's just online, trying to create more online content and also getting online orders for fabrication. So, yeah. Online, right?
Yeah.
Online. So just making it more accessible online rather than like have to go to the cafe itself.
We try. I mean, we can't just sit and wait for the MCO to be lifted.
Yeah.
So we have to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about this. I mean, we've been doing a lot of R&D during MCO. We've also done some community projects as well. We're sort of extending from the PPE project as well. We started to think what else we can do for the community. You know, we don't want to build a community in a silo. We want to be part of the neighborhood. So we built some 3D printed door opener, you know, that prevent people from touching the knob and also the bar. So they use their forearm to actually pull the knob. So we have been distributing the opener to the business entity around our neighborhood. To the clinics, to the bakery.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So
We tender for a lot of projects, but none of them come back.
I feel you. So like for the rest of this year, we only have like half a year left. 2020.
I know. So fast.
It's so I don't know if it's so fast or if it's so slow for me.
I think it's fast. Like the
Is it
MCO
fast?
was 2 months, right? I felt it went by
Just
so
like
fast.
that.
Yeah.
I've been working from home. It's just 24-hour working for me, but still, do you have like anything that you would like to highlight, like look out for this year or maybe next year if it's open? Like, do you have anything special coming up?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, events or big installation for FabU if they have big installations.
For us, during the MCO, a lot of R&D. So we were thinking, because we came across somebody saying like all our onions are 70% of our onions are from India. So when India was in lockdown, it disrupted the onion supply in Malaysia. So then it got us thinking, and that's when we started this project called FabFuture. And FabFuture just looks into exploring, designing, or innovating self-sufficient ways to live lah. Also, because the UN report says that in 2050 it's expected that the human population will reach 10 billion compared to now. I think now it's like 4 billion. So that's why we started this self-sufficient idea, which we will look into this, exploring, designing.
So you're growing onion?
Maybe. What?
Urban farming?
Yeah, like urban
So,
farming.
From this we found out that actually, okay, with this pandemic creating, it's like how community and people actually really depending to other country or other people when it lockdown is really not working. Like the supply, like she said, the onion supply is like the stop. So that's why we come up with this lah. So we got like 4 different topic we want to more tap into.
Yeah.
So we got like food
supply,
and energy,
clean water, and waste management. So we were experimenting with just creating materials out of food waste from the kitchen and all that.
Just recently, but then we didn't bring it because it's still wet and like not that 100% good.
Yeah,
Because we are like experimenting, but we trying to really to manage our waste into something else.
Okay. FabU, any highlights maybe for end of this year or next year?
FabU this year is very much about survival and self-sustainability. How to sustain our business. So for the coming, in fact, we already launched a few of our kits, maker kits. That's already in the pipeline. So this month we have launched DIY microscope and also the gyroscope. So because we assume people have a lot of time and also nothing to do at home, so might as well start
Doing something.
doing some small DIY project. That's also part of our mission to push the makers movement as well. But we have also been notified by Cendana that we have been granted. We received a grant for the project I proposed to you.
Ah, okay, cool.
So we need to discuss that later. It's actually
Confidential.
spoiler.
Confidential.
Yeah, I mean, from the PPE chapter during MCO, we see this different makerspace coming together into a project. It sort of extend from there. So I wrote a proposal for Cendana for capacity building, and we will be inviting 15 artists who are interested in digital fabrications.
Nice.
And we will distribute them to different makerspace.
That's nice.
And get them work on different fabrications project. So hopefully, it will build up their fabrications
So
capacity.
actually, that's a quite interesting thing to look forward to.
Yeah.
When do you think that will happen?
It's supposed to happen next month.
Next
Yeah.
Supposed. Okay. So,
But we are not sure how the conditions of the MCO,
yeah.
whether people are confident enough to actually come out, join the workshop.
Okay. I have no idea how to wrap this up. But
We just go on and
so
on.
because actually you guys went and on. I think 2 times they wrap it up. Wrap it up.
Okay.
It's good. Okay, so like to actually wrap it up, actually thank you Andy and Gwen for coming over so far away from Aradamansara for Oasis, right?
Yeah. Thank you for having
Thank you
us.
for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you to invite us. I guess.
Thank you for agreeing to this.
So that was actually introduction to digital fabrication. So I think we touched very basic things about digital fabrications. That was chapter 1. Chapter 1. So a lot of things that Malaysia still needs to know, a lot of things people still need to like find out on their own if they're a maker or not, that you can actually go consult, and there's like things to look forward to. Installations, is that an art installation, was it just now? Yeah, and FabU will be working with FabCafe again, so which is interesting. Like I said, makers culture in Malaysia, they work together, which is very heartwarming to see. Yeah, so that is it. Is it? Should I wrap it up like that? That is it for today. Thank you again for coming over. We'll see you guys on the next topic, chapter. Yeah.